Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond and Above, a show where we bring to you people who are doing beyond and above in their careers or their talents. My names are Florence Jedediah Mlenga, and I am your host today. Now, today we have a very exciting guest, and he is popularly known as the radical entrepreneur. His name is Mr. Dumisani Ncube. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. My pleasure being here.
Thank you for hosting us. So, we're going to just basically run through your journey as an entrepreneur, and we're going to ask you questions at each stage of your entrepreneurship journey, how it has been, what was running through your mind at each particular moment. So this time around, you're not going to tell your story. We are going to tell your story, and then you pitch in with what your experiences were and how you overcame the challenges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the first part is when you started in grade 8 with pamphlet production. What was going through your mind? Because at that particular moment in grade 8, I wasn't thinking about entrepreneurship. I was probably thinking about buying food and things like that. So what was going through your mind in grade 8? Why did you decide to start?
All right. So I think what was going through my mind then was just to see how I can make some money. I think looking at where I'm coming from, which was a reasonably humble background, and getting to Matero Boys, where Matero Boys is a very special school in a very special way, in the sense that it has a very high cutoff point. So those that come from poor backgrounds want their children to be there. Those from rich backgrounds want their children to be there too. So it's one of the schools where you find the rich and the poor at the same place. Yeah. So when I was then exposed to how poor we were, in fact, I first knew that we were really poor when I got to Matero Boys. Because then I saw that actually there are people that have real money, they can actually buy Apple Max and they buy at lunch and break time and all the time. And so I think it was at that point that then I felt I can utilize my special ability. And in that same process of realizing how poor I was, one thing that struck me the most was performance. So then I realized that actually I can actually beat people that buy Apple Max and they pie at break time. So then I realized that I had a certain advantage, and which was, intellect in a way. So it was from that I then felt, okay, fine, what can I do to utilize my special abilities? So I just thought of, some guys were interested in my material. So I thought, I can actually mint out of this. And that's how I began making, the first profit. So for me, really, it was to see how I could just have something for break time and lunch, just like other youths. Yeah. So it was not like, no, I want to be very rich from this. No, it was like, at least if I can also eat with them, it is fine.
Pie.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. So from this pamphlet production, you went on to open up a kiosk. A kiosk is a canned drop, by the way. That was like a shift in how can I put it? It was a shift in business. Like you're moving from one business to another type of business. How was that for you? Were you scared? Were you excited? What was the feeling at that particular moment?
Okay, so at that particular moment, that arose from the fact that I realized that getting basic things wasn't as easy. Because the nearest place where I would get basic things like sugar, salt and whatnot, it was Nampunge Mine, which was a space that a distance that would cover maybe 35 minutes riding a bicycle. So I thought, I could take advantage and sell to my community. So it was something very small. It was out of necessity. And I felt, okay, having learned from the pamphlets thing, that out of necessity you can make some money.
Yeah.
I also realized that, I can as well make some money out of this. Okay. So that's how the whole kiosk thing came in.
Alright, interesting. Yeah. So then we see you changing now from a kiosk to exchanging bikes for boats. So what was going on at that particular moment? Why the change?
Okay, so the reason for the change was I realized after opening school, getting back to Matero Boys, leaving the village, that it was difficult to entrust the goods in the hands of someone else, because then I would face shortages and just lose money in the process. So I wanted a business that I would fully control. Unlike the kiosk kind of arrangement where I'm there for 1 month, after 1 month we open schools and I'm at school for 3 months, it was very difficult to totally entrust that little business in the hands of someone else, because of accountability issues. So then I wanted a business that I would have full control over. And the one of trading in goats seems to have been a business that I would have full control over. And because even if it meant on a weekend I can go to the village, buy goats and have them sold for a profit. So I didn't need then to entrust my resources in the hands of someone else. So the whole essence of goats, it is not that I had passion for goats or maybe anything like that. It is just that I wanted a business that I have full control over. And well, I can share this. It also comes at a later time why I left a certain a certain business, which I believe maybe you might wish to find out on later. Why I left transport business, it was the same issue of control. It's like you actually spend a 500,000, a 600,000, then entrust the whole thing in the hands of someone else. Then the person can decide to be careless and whatnot, and you end up losing. I just wanted to have a business that I can have control over.
See.
So
Interesting. So from there, you see you going bigger now. You start going to Botswana, South Africa, and you start buying electronics and clothes to come and sell here in Zambia. At what age were you in that moment?
And then I turned 17.
So you were 17 and you decided, you know what, now I'm going to take it to another level.
Yeah, I think I was 17 then.
So what inspired that?
Okay, so I think the whole thing of running around with goats, I think I got tired of that thing.
Okay.
So, I had made a bit of money and I wanted to actually up the game. And back then, the people that would go out of the country, it's like, these are there. Okay. And truly, when I traveled first out of the country, it was like I'm an international businessman. So, I felt it. So it was just that transition of wanting to do something better or transitioning to something better. Now that I'd even graduated grade 12, so I was like, okay, so now this is something that I can do pretty well. I can be an international businessman. Yeah. So that's how I got on the thing of getting things from Botswana initially. And of course it has its own story because I wanted to go with someone who used to go to Botswana, but it seems the person wasn't so interested in going with me. Okay. So I still had to find my way of going there because where there's a will, you need the ways there. Exactly. Yeah. So.
But then something major, something big happens in one of your business trips in 2010 where you get robbed. So what made you give up in business? Because initially when someone gets robbed, you just want to give up. So what was the thinking?
Okay, so when I was robbed of all the capital that I had at the tax station in Johannesburg, it was quite easy then to give up because it's like, this thing is not working. And in fact, there was really nothing to give up on because all the money was gone. So it is by default, you've lost it. So it is not like you have an option. You say, okay, fine, I'm continuing or maybe I'm not continuing. It was like, so that was a checkmate. It's like, you are done.
You're done.
But when I got done, I still had to pick myself up. But what kept me going was the realization that, you see, in entrepreneurship, I signed up for something. There is profit and loss. Yeah. So if I'm much more comfortable to partake of the profits, I should be comfortable to partake of the losses too. And what kept me going as well was that I'd stayed for quite a while in business, making profits. I mean, I remember that this is something that is coming from Matero Boys. The Matero Boys, from the time I started, I was there for 4 more years. And I graduated in 2006. So 2010 is again another 4 years. So 8 years making little profits. So already had seen that this thing works. So I don't need anyone to prove to me that this works. So I couldn't give up because I'd seen how it was working. So in 8 years, that of the first loss, so it was like, okay, it's part of the journey. It's not that it was a major loss, but otherwise, it set me clear on one thing, that this entrepreneurship thing is working. Yeah, despite this loss.
Oh, that's really amazing. So in 2012 now, we see you rising up. You decided to become a co-founder of what you were calling Glad Tidings, if I'm not mistaken. So what made you so sure about this partnership that it will work out, and what was the experience and how were you feeling at that particular moment? Were you sure that co-founding this company would be something that will work, or what was going on?
Also, at that particular moment, I had less choices, by the way.
Okay.
It was like, whatever my hands find to do, I would do it wholeheartedly. So at that point, it was one thing that was happening, and I was super excited about it because for the first time, we had then registered a company, the three of us, and my thinking was that I'm a director, and you see how those Parker forms are. You are the director.
Yeah.
So I truly felt it, and I was super excited about it. Whether it was going to work or not, I was so excited. And I remember I even had, we actually had a checkbook. So I had access to the checkbook. So at one time, I plucked out 3 leaves from the checkbook, and I wrote amounts on those checks. So I was like, and I didn't put my signature, 2 signatures. One was mine, the other one was a faked one.
Yeah.
And there was an amount there, and my names were there.
Yeah.
Like, I felt it, that we have a checkbook in our company. Whether the company was making money then or not, but it was like, I'm a director.
Wow.
So I was super excited, and I felt it would work. I truly felt that it is going to work. It was just a matter of time. And I applied myself excellently. So how I felt good about it.
Okay.
No, just having a certificate. It was like, I own a company. And by the way, a company is a certificate. So and I have a checkbook. And we just don't go to the bank. We have check. So I was super excited about it. Whether, the kind of people that I was partnering with and whatnot, it was a bit secondary. For me, it was the fact that we had a company, and you see, being young, you're just 20 and you have a company and you are the director and the shareholder, and you see, even the time we are signing for the papers at the bank, it was like, I'm already there. So I truly felt it, and it was quite exciting.
That's really amazing, and we see the power in not giving up, because in about 10 months, the company starts to rise and people are using the system across Zambia. So how did that make you feel? Did it make you feel that, okay, this is actually working better than I expected, or that's what you actually expected for it to do better in 10 months?
All right, so now there are 2 corners to this.
Okay.
The company was founded actually not in 2012, but 2010. So then we registered late 2010. So 2011 we started. We are still trying and whatnot. Then the sales started properly in 2012. Like they were starting out. So the 10 months part comes in because my thinking when we are starting out was that gentlemen, I'm in sales. So what I need is a car. We need a proper office. We need a proper this, a proper that, so that you see when we visit these people as I arrive, I should arrive with a vehicle. So that was my thinking. But unfortunately, we could not access that. So at about the same time, we had made a bit of money from the sales from the same thing. Then we invested in tomatoes, where I then made a loss. So it was from the coming from tomatoes where, like things are not really working and you are stuck, that I hit the ground running without a vehicle, without, offices, but just the product and the zeal to push. So the pushing that happened from that moment, to the point that we got super successful was a period of 10 months. Now, here's a little difference that is there. Before that final period, I found myself in that space, like I indicated, no, we need to put this together, we need to work out this, we need to make sure that I have nice suits and whatnot. And this is a challenge that a number of us have, you know. No, I'll start properly now, let me sort out first the school issues. Once I'm done in school, once I'm at work, we always have something which is holding us back from getting started. But here's the thing, I started out working and really working, but in 10 months of serious pushing, life truly changed. Then I realized that I was actually sitting on something for all this while that would have changed my life way earlier. Yes, but from the period that I realized that now that we have to push this, it was in about 10 months, and you know, life completely changed.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
There's tomatoes going on, and there's the company going on. That's a lot to do with. And again, you go on to open DON Motors Limited, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So didn't you feel like overwhelmed, or maybe you thought that, okay, I need to do something else as well? So what was going on at that time?
Alright, so maybe as I get to the DLN Motors thing, I think I need to also clarify something.
Okay, no problem. Sure.
On the software part and the tomato part, I had no intentions for the tomatoes.
Okay.
Yes. So the tomato thing came in because this guy, who was the brains, you know, like the software guy, in 2012, well, the time he graduated in 2009, he was the only guy who had graduated with a distinction degree at the University of Zambia in the House School of Natural Sciences. And in computer science was the only one. So he was called back as a staff development fellow. So in 2012, he was set to get a Commonwealth scholarship. So then I looked at myself. I have no idea in these software things. You know, I'm an accountant by profession. So I had no know-how. So then my thinking at that point was that from the little that I have made, let me go to tomatoes, because this company will not progress. Yes, so it is as good as dead, since this guy is leaving for the UK. So that's how the tomato thing happened. But in the process, I made a massive loss in the tomato project, and it was a total loss. And you know, I was even dumped then. I think I've shared this story. So I made a loss in tomatoes, and my girlfriend left me then. So it was a mourning period. Then at about the same time, the guy on the last minute, he thought to get a scholarship. So that's how, as I was complaining about the visa thing, then he said, no, don't cry. You're crying on one thing and I'm crying on two. You know, the tomatoes, all the money is gone and my girlfriend is gone. So you are just crying on one thing. So that's how we got back and started working together. So it was from that period that we even hit, you know, interesting contracts, which then led to your next question on the transport thing, you know. So now coming to the transport thing, what was going through my mind at that point was, after making money, now you are this, and then I'd even attained 22 or 23 thereabout. What was going through my mind was to fulfill my childhood dream, and which was owning trucks. You see, when we are young, playing with wire trucks, or trucks made out of wires, not toys. It was always a dream to own such. So the time had come for me to own such, and there was no better time than that time when I had made some good money from the software business. So that's how I put into the transport business. It was basically to fulfill my childhood.
Okay. Alright. So that's really interesting because it's like you used what you got to now start your childhood dream. So now at this particular moment we're getting into something that you're now really passionate about, because you say that each business was because you're like, make good money in it, but then I've always wanted to do it. But then you see you're experiencing a major loss in 2014, more than $30,000, where one of the trucks, I don't know if it was involved in an accident. Maybe explain to us what happened at that moment.
All right, so here's a guy you are meeting, you're enjoying, and life is happening. You're just a 23-year-old, and life is just rolling, you know.
You want a track at 23-year-old, I'm
Yeah,
23,
yeah.
so
Yes. So
life
yeah,
is happening at that
life is
time.
happening. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then that major setback happens, and you see that setback was so huge for many reasons. Number one, the driver had loaded 8 unauthorized passengers in the truck, you know, the cabin, who were badly injured. Number two, I was ferrying over 600 bags of government maize. Where at the accident scene, where the truck was still flipped upside down, people looted more than 500 bags of maize. What was recovered was less than 70 bags of maize at the accident scene. I'd gotten tires for the truck, because you see the truck had over 22 tires. I'd gotten tires on a post-dated check. So meaning I was actually on, and you know, tires now would cost almost 10,000, you know, a tire, and you have 22 tires on a post-dated check. So that explains, you know, the level of the debt that I was in. Yes. So now that then happens. So there was so much happening at the same time at that particular accident, which was so huge such that it led to the closure of my transport company. Now, what really led to the closure of my transport company was that I was running this contract with FRA, and I was not getting paid instantly. So meaning I kept pumping in money. So then I requested for money from them for the works that I'd done, and they said no, they could not pay me at that particular time. So they said, well, we lost our maize. And I said, okay, fine, count that the whole load was lost, then value that. Then net off from what you're supposed to pay me. Why? Because I'd done something very foolish. The truck wasn't fully comprehensively insured. So I then had to meet expenses from my back pocket. So what hit me was the liquidity issue. I've been investing in this contract and they're not paying me then. 1. 2, the truck is not insured, so meaning I have to finance this. So I ended up selling, you know, trucks to pay off. And some were needing as much as 350,000 in compensation. And that is 2014, that was a lot of money. Because if you look at the exchange rate now, we can multiply that by 2. So we are almost saying, you know, almost 700,000 equivalent now in terms of compensation. Yeah, so that led to the closure of the transport business. So it was a very painful period. But what was going through my head then was that these are some of the losses that can be incurred. And remember, I was meeting and enjoying. So in my thinking was that, okay, fine, this is part of the journey. We shall face such losses. But at that point, I had given up on transport. Reason being, I felt I had no proper control. In as I would insure, of course that one wasn't insured, but in as I would insure, drivers had crazy tendencies of selling fuel, and sometimes they'll buy changan. Like you have no control, even if you've insured it, if they put wrong fuel, the truck knocks, and then you couldn't insure the engine. So there are these funny things, you know, they could get tires, sell tires, do what, you know, funny things, and I felt I didn't have much control over that. And I'll say something which I hope you interpret better. Not out of arrogance, but maybe I'll say it so that it maybe drives the point home. And I'm saying it respectively. You see, for one to become a driver, there is a very high chance that they could have failed in life to some extent. Yeah, for one to end up being a driver. And I'm saying it respectively because there are cases why others end up, you know, being that. But to some extent, maybe they could have, you know, failed in life. Now you spend a 700,000, you spend $1 million, you spend 600,000, get this asset and put it in the hands of this person full time. And it is in his hands all the time. So I felt I was running a business that I was running but fully not having control over, you know. Yeah, so I felt I needed to run a business that I have full-time control over. Yeah, not one where I spend so much then put in the hands of someone else who doesn't even care. And some of these drivers, really don't care, and some of them are so irresponsible. Like even the same accident that we actually had, it was irresponsibility because the guy was drinking when he was driving and had no control of knowing that he was descending on a truck on a hill with a truck loaded. He was cruising like no man's business and he was overtaking another truck. So it was irresponsibility, really. So I felt I needed to have a business that I have proper control of.
Okay. It kind of reminds me to what people say. They say that mostly if you don't own a car, you'll be irresponsible with it. Unfortunately. So yeah. So that's really interesting. That's like a huge loss. But still, you didn't give up.
Oh yeah.
You went on to say, okay, fine, I'm going to now start DLM Technologies Limited. So, which I believe is the one we're in right now.
This is the institute.
The institute.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe just explain now from that major setback, having that loss. Why did you end up starting the DLM Technologies Limited?
Okay, so when I was in college, I had this thought of doing, identity cards using those laminated papers like, NRCs. I thought it would be something that would, like, one would mean some money from. And I believed so because then I'd seen the lamination machines and whatnot, and I knew that, we could make money out of it. But then that never got to fruition. But then by that time, years had passed, then I realized that the trend was that a number of universities and colleges were still using those laminated identity cards. But the trend was going towards PVC cards, cards that are like the driver's license. So then my thinking was that, how about if we jump to the PVC cards, then got back and said, listen up, we can do PVC cards for you. This is very good for your image and whatnot. So I saw it as an opportunity. So then quickly, I then got, the first machine to do the printing for the PVC cards. So it was just a way of taking advantage of, the change, how things were looking up for the future. So I just wanted to take advantage of that and maybe make some money out of that. So what then the technologies company got to be was not necessarily what I thought. Because at that point it was that we just wanted to print identity cards. But in the process, I realized that universities were more inclined to wanting to do the identity cards internally. Because if one loses an identity card, finding the person to come and print that one identity card is a huge challenge. And before exams, people lose identity. So they are getting inclined towards, printing internally. So they wanted the machines. So then I had to reposition the business to be one that can supply the printers and also on the side be able to print. So if you looked at it, how it has revolved and revolved, it just says one thing. Whichever kind of business idea that you have, it can revolve. You should be so versatile to see how your ideas can revolve. Don't be so stagnant to say we started and we are thinking of working out this way. Double check with the market and see how trends are moving. And that's how we found ourselves being the biggest suppliers of machines that do such. And we ended up having banks on doing ATM cards, and so it just got to be something really huge in the process. So it was just identifying opportunities as we were already in the business. Okay, fine, we can go about this. Okay, here, since we supply such machines and such cards, how about the issue of access control, for the doors, for the word, for the turnstiles, for the one. So we kept adding on and fitting in our space and taking advantage of how things were. So to answer your question, it was just something small that I was thinking of. Say, okay, fine. Back then, people were using laminated cards, but now we can do PVC cards, and it just evolved from then on.
So from what we can tell from that story is adaptation to change,
Certainly.
Don't just stick to, we founded our company like this, it should run like this, so learn to adapt. So now, being the radical entrepreneur that you are, you go in and say, okay, let me start a construction company. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, so the construction company, so there's something very interesting. When I was at Material Boys, I used to take a course called technical drawing.
Okay.
And I was super good at it. So technical drawing is one way you do the lines and whatnot. Then at senior secondary school, it was called GMD, Geometrical Mechanical Drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it is called now, but then it was called that way. So I was super good at that subject. So my wish was to be an engineer. And my wish was to be a civil engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my dream. Because of the secondary school arrangement. And by the way, that subject is the subject that I always had as the highest, all through, yeah. So it was my dream to be an engineer, precisely civil engineer. But circumstances, bursary challenges and whatnot, led me to become incapacitated to afford studying for engineering.
Okay.
Yes, because the only way I could study was to get a bursary and study engineering at UNZA or CBU and whatnot. Yeah, so when circumstances were a little otherwise, so one thing led to the other, and I ended up doing accounts, which was something that I never even thought of.
Yeah.
So accounts is just the thing that just for the sake of getting qualified.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not, I had no passion for it and whatnot. So now, at a later time, I still wanted to get my dream. So it was like, okay, now I've not gone through this engineering thing, but what I'll do instead, I will employ engineers. So that's how the whole construction company came in with one civil engineer and another one. So we are the three of us that founded this company. And if there is any time that I feel so nice, I've employed many people before, fired many people, interviewed many people under my organizations, even in the boards that I serve in. But there is no satisfaction that I get when employing the civil engineer. It's like, yo, sit there. What's your name? Tell me about yourself. No, all right. So why should I employ you? So there's a lot of those feel. Whenever I'm interviewing a civil engineer, I would feel so satisfied. And my thinking would be like, you see, I was supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. But listen up, I'm here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so so anyway, so that was the story that the reason why I had a soft spot for construction was because of my dream as a secondary school pupil. Okay. Yeah, so I could only fulfill it through the construction business, and I'm so glad with the projects that we then got to do. It gave me a lot of satisfaction. It was quite interesting. Yeah. So for the civil engineers out there, you are living my dream. But should you need a job, you can come through.
You heard it, guys. Civil engineer, you can come through. So we see your hard work being recognized internationally, and in 2016 we see you being awarded a certain award. You tell us about the award. As you became the youngest African CEO to receive that award, and also the first Zambian to receive it. So tell us a little bit about this award and how did that motivate you, or how did that make you feel?
All right, so it was the Evolis Performance Award. Okay. So this is in the space of those that do, smart card printers, like in that space. Mm-hmm. So it was solely because of performance and the numbers and how we just turned the market around in Zambia. Within 9 months or so, we were the biggest providers in the country, and just ourselves went so up within a very short space of time. So that was quite humbling. That was quite humbling, and it just said one thing to me. It is possible. You can do it. It is not about time. It is not about how long. It's about how dedicated you are. Mm-hmm. It is possible. So I think if there's any takeaway from that, it was just that it was possible. And it was from that I even felt that there is so much more that I can achieve with my life and for the rest of my life. And it actually helped me apply myself excellently. Mm-hmm. Yes, knowing that it is possible.
Okay. Now that's a really, really inspiring journey, and I'm sure there's more now that happened after 2016. But because of time, I'm going to ask you now questions outside your journey. I'm going to ask you questions based on the videos that you make on Facebook. One of the videos that struck me the most was when you met a 25-year-old who asked you how old you were. And and yeah, when you told him your age, he told you that, oh, by the time I'm your age, I'm probably going to achieve the things that you have achieved. And I remember you kind of laughed at that statement because this person was probably maybe just seated and dreaming and saying, I'm going to just wake up and become a successful person one day. So what encouragement do you have to young people who think they can just wake up and become successful? What encouragement do you have for those?
All right. Success is predictable. Success is very predictable. You just don't wake up one day and you're successful. You're like, wow, what happened? I'm this powerful. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So success is predictable and you work towards it.
Yeah.
And people that get to succeed have certain traits that they build on and improve on.
Mm-hmm.
That then helps them to become better people. Yeah. So you may be 21, you may be 25, 20 or 27, and you might be thinking, no, time will come in future. There is no time coming in future. The time that you have control over is the now. And if there's anything that you can do, you better do it now. So my words of encouragement are that don't look at those that are older than you and say, hey, by the time I'm getting there, I'll be, but ask the question of where were they at the time they were your age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for this particular guy who was so relaxed at 25 and feeling like, no, he's so cool, at 25 doing nothing serious, I reminded him to say, you see, you're saying by the time you're 31, you'll be like me, but listen up, by the time I was 25, I was actually running DLN technologies. I had built my first house. I was doing this and that. Why? Because I was working at your age. So you can't just wake up and things turn around when you are closer to my age. It's something that you need to build on over time. So if there's anything you need to do, you better get on and do it now. And this is the story to the young people. Now we can say Dangote, how old is Dangote? He's 50 what? By the time I'm what? I'll be there. But you look at where Dangote was the time was of your age. He was pushing huge numbers and doing phenomenal things. I think you can balance it out from there. And this also says one thing. In terms of wealth, don't look at those who are ahead of you. Don't look at them in terms of the lifestyle that they are living. But you look at them to say, how were they living the time they were at your level in terms of financial independence? Because sometimes you want to compete with other people that have, financial freedom, who've achieved so much more. They buy a Jeep, and you also who is just starting out, and you also want to buy a Jeep. But you are forgetting that person has 10 houses. That person has 5 companies with a turnover in millions. And you just have one company, you've just started off and you want to compete with them in terms of their lifestyle. But the question is, think, where were they and what were they doing the time they still had one company? Now that is not earning in millions just like yours. So I think it is important also just to balance out these things this way. It is quite helpful if you looked at it that way.
Interesting. So I'm sure people have been encouraged that you don't just wake up and become successful. You need to look at how these people who are successful, what they did back then while they were the age that you are at right now. So we see a level of consistency in your journey. When one business goes down, you go to the next, you keep pushing, you keep fighting until where you've reached right now. So what really is the motivation? What's the drive that keeps you going? What makes you the radical entrepreneur?
What keeps me going? I should begin by indicating that, that's a very interesting question. What keeps me going? To begin with, you can lose many things in business. You can lose finances, you can lose talented employees, you can lose many things. But if you lose the drive, the zeal, the fire, then you are gone. Like you are gone. You are completely gone.
Yeah.
You have no way of surviving that. And because that is the most important thing that you need to keep close to yourself. So what has kept me going all through is that, you see, I have come face to face with poverty, and I don't want to go back there. So it is fear. Well, to begin with, I don't want to be poor. I've actually been there, so I just don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was there in poverty, then I saw what it means to be comfortable. I would never wish to go back to poverty, because money is nice. Let no one lie to you. Money is nice. Money is nice. If people say money doesn't buy happiness, they don't know what they're talking about. Because I hear those funny stories. Money doesn't buy happiness. Money accords you comfort.
Yeah.
That would make you happy.
It's true.
Yeah, money is nice. So having tested it, I would want to go back the other end. So what keeps me going is, one, I don't want to go back there. Two, I feel I was born for a reason, and it is to make an impact in society and leave the world a better place than I found it. Yeah. So those two keep me going. And if there was a summed up way, I would say my wish in life is to save God and save mankind. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And by the way, you see, we deny the world an opportunity if we live a mediocre life, because they will not get to experience us. I mean, you as a person. There's something that you are given, that you are to offer the world. But if you don't live at your full potential, you are denying not just yourself, but the world of you. Yeah. So I don't want to be that. And in fact, I've opted to even utilize my potential fully, so that when I die empty. All the potential utilized. I don't want to die with so much value. Like the brain which is untapped, not used, brand new brain. I want one that is very well used, such that when I go to rest, I rest indeed.
Okay, and I see you did a post recently about dying empty.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. But I also want to talk about your walk. You walked from Congo to Lusaka. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of passion, because you wanted to promote entrepreneurship. So what were your expectations from that walk, and were these expectations met?
All right, so my expectations from my walk from Congo to Zambia, or Congo to Lusaka, it was basically to create an awareness on entrepreneurship, that entrepreneurship is the way to go, and we need to embrace entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And the core things that were there were, number one, we need to begin thinking of entrepreneurship, because getting jobs has become very difficult. I think it's a whole discussion on its own. Getting a job has become very difficult. It takes an average of 6 years to get a job in Africa, in your field. So we need to see how we can enterprise with our skills. So entrepreneurship is the way to go. Number two, I wanted just a mindset change for people to move from the thinking that those that make it are Satanists, looking at those that make it to have something wrong with them, to begin looking at it to say, you see, it is normal to make it. It is a reasonable thing to make it. And I was looking at it to say we as Zambians to begin taking advantage of certain situations, of certain circumstances. Like in this case, there is so much supply that we can take to Congo. But we have supplies coming from South Africa to Congo. What is wrong with us Zambians? I think we need to see how we can rise to the occasion. And the other thing, it was about the curriculum, to see how we can have a curriculum that encourages entrepreneurship from a very young age. Now, to answer your question, where these things met, I would say to a large extent, I'm satisfied that a number of people have begun thinking of enterprising. A number of people are enterprising because of the motivation they got from the work. Odd as it might sound, I've had a number of people call in and say, because of that work, I was so motivated and this is what I'm doing at the moment. So I would say results were met. Can much more be done? Yes, so much more can be done and so much more can be achieved.
That's really nice. It's really good to see that you stood up for something that that people have never really stood up for. And to see results is actually something that's remarkable, and we can give you a really big we can really give you a big hand for that, because entrepreneurship is really something we need to embrace, considering that employment is an issue. So we're going to talk about now your conference that's coming up, the Africa Masting Conference. So can you tell us a little bit about the Africa Masting Conference? Why should people attend it? What will be the benefits for them? And also how they can attend, where do they get the tickets from, and just a little bit about that.
So Africa Masting is a conference that awakens us that we need to think as Africans. How can a continent so rich be so poor? I think those are the questions that we are trying to address. Why is it that we do not see opportunities in Africa and in our countries, and it would take a Chinese to come and show us opportunities here? Why is it that even in our education, all we look at is naming the parts of a plant and getting a degree, naming parts of a plant and not knowing the value of that particular plant. So as a consequence, it will have to take a Chinese to come and tell us, to say this is mukula and it has so much value, and we can't identify that. So it calls for us to think and really see how we can rise as a continent, as a country, and as individuals. And we need to realize that the progress of our countries and of our continent lies on individuals. Because a poor country is a collection of poor citizens. If the majority are poor in your country, you're a poor country. So the rising should start at individual level. And we need to realize that. So it is an awakening that is telling us to say, there is no corporate poverty. Poverty is individual. So you need to own up at an individual level. And it focuses in line with entrepreneurship. Because you see, if you look at job searching and getting a job, you are limited, because then your circumstances are in the hands of someone else. Your life is in the hands of someone else. It is not in your control. It is only when you think of enterprising with your skills that you then get to have 100% control of your life. So I think these are things that we are truly are putting together at this conference to make sure that, you see, we are redefined and we think differently. Our wish was to have the conference on the 5th of July, but because of COVID, numbers were surging. We have since moved it to October 31st, and people can access tickets from CompuTicket from any ShopRite outlet across the country. And the tickets are going for 100 kwacha, a standard ticket, then 300 kwacha gold ticket with a book. I'll be launching my first book, the Radical Entrepreneur book. Then 1,500 kwacha for a platinum ticket. That comes with a book, a VIP seating, one-on-one meeting, and with the plus advantages that you get. So really, that is it about the Africa Masting Conference. So 31st of October this year, at Hero Stadium.
You guys need to be there. You've already heard how his story is inspiring, and we need to be awakened as Africans. We need to step out of our comfort zone and just become thinkers, radical thinkers.
Yeah.
So I understand that you do have an entrepreneurship school.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the first of its kind in Zambia.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the school. What are the benefits of attending that school, and also how can one become a part of that school?
All right, so we have DLN Entrepreneurship Institute, which is the first of its kind, like you've indicated, where we train people in entrepreneurship in a practical way. You see, we are tired of, hearing people recite dead men's theories, telling you of how, you can make it when they themselves have not made it. So the difference with the institute is that the people that lecture are people who've made it. It is not people that will tell you about money. It is people that have the money and who will tell you how you can make the money.
Yeah.
So it's a really different space, because you get the practical lessons on entrepreneurship. So that is what sets the institute apart from the rest. So our focus is not on graduating with a paper. In as you can graduate, with a certificate, our focus is on you getting started with your business. So you'll be guided through practically. because you see, you can read books from different countries, books from the States are talking about entrepreneurship, but they'll miss out key aspects. The circumstances that side are different from our circumstances here.
Yeah.
So we need people who are here, who know the circumstances and the challenges to tell you about entrepreneurship. Because someone in the States who write in the book and really complain, you see, I started from the bottom, life was so tough. I started, I used to sleep in a car. But listen up, you're talking about a car. Here it's a luxury. So circumstances are totally different. I started in a garage. You are saying that, people here are homeless, there's no garage, and how many people even have a garage at their places? It is for the rich people. We don't have garages here, where you park vehicles.
Yeah.
And you are complaining, say I started from a garage. Here it is a 2-roomed, and you have your father, your mother, and everyone is there. So circumstances are totally different. So there's some form of mismatch between their circumstances and our circumstances. And if you talk to funding, that side they have the way of reaching out to angel investors, Silicon Valley, but we don't have that here. So circumstances are totally different. So we need people in our circumstances to tell us how they made it and how they can swim out. So here is the DLN Entrepreneurship Institute. So we started in 2019. 2 years down the line, we've graduated over 150 entrepreneurs who are doing phenomenal things. The largest restaurant in Mongo is our student. The one who was received and who is doing phenomenal things under the Sage Computing and whatnot is our student. So we've done phenomenal things and lives have been redefined. And now we no longer even need to tell you what we can do for you. All we do now is that we just point out which field you want to get in, or you want to get into fashion. Okay, so the owner of Mark Ford and whatnot, that is our former, mentee. So we can now point at people that have gone through the institute and the phenomenal things that they are doing. Yeah.
That's really, really amazing. So if one wants to be a part of this school,
so you can visit our website, which is www.dlninstitute.org, or you can call the number. What is the number? So you can call 0975 76 57 36. Or you can go to the page, DLN Entrepreneurship Institute. Like the page, follow the page, and there's a number which is there. I think it has 99 at the end. They will attend to you. So there's a landline, there's a cell line, and you'll be helped there. Or you can just message there, and someone will definitely get in touch with you. Yeah.
Interesting. So majority of our viewers are students, so they are young people, and they're now probably wondering, okay, is it that all he does is just business, professionalism and all that? Who is Dumisani aside from business and all this professional life? What are your hobbies? What are you into?
I love music. Yeah, I love music. I love eating. Yeah. I don't know whether it's a hobby or it's a necessity, but I just love it. I love traveling.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what goes around my life. So the usual things, movies are too long, so I may not have the patience to waste that time watching that. Soccer, that 90 minutes is quite long as well. So maybe I may not have the time to watch 22 adults chasing packaged air, so that I leave it out. Entrepreneurship is part of me. It's a lifestyle. So I don't feel like working. So every day I report for work. In fact, I'm still looking forward to a day when I work, because for me, every day is fun and I'm enjoying every bit of the journey. Yeah. And interestingly, the kind of work that I do also allows me to travel quite a lot, which then tallies well with the traveling hobby. Yeah, so I travel quite a bit. The only place that I have not traveled to amongst the many places is the United States, and for a reason. It's that, you see, I've been to all the major places, Paris, London, Greece, the old temp. Like I have traveled the globe in the literal sense, but I did not go to the States for a reason that I would want to have a place where I can go with my wife for honeymoon, a place that I've not gone to. So that's why I've reserved that place. Otherwise, I felt I just needed to have a place that I would love to be at, but I've not traveled to.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only place that I've reserved. But the longer it takes for me to have her, I think I might just decide to go there.
Okay, interesting. So Mr. Dumisani has another life outside business and whatnot, but entrepreneurship is a part of him, so it's a hobby for him as well.
Yeah.
Now, as we conclude with the show, what word of encouragement would you like to give to entrepreneurs? Now, I'm going to ask you to break it down to children, young, because there are children who have started entrepreneurship now. So you break it down to children, and then you come to the youth, and then to the older generation. So what advice do you have for each generation?
Oh, wow. I'm getting that question for the first time. And I must say that I'm impressed that you know my life fully. It's like you are telling me my story. I'm like, okay. All right. So for the children, it is the best time to start. You have the time, and you are never too young to start. You can do phenomenal things as a child, and in fact, if you even looked at it from the biblical sense, you will realize that Jesus at 12 was sitting amongst the elders and doing phenomenal things. So you can never be too young and say I'm a child. And in fact, even just from the Bible, we have kings who are kings at 8 years old. But that's a story for another day. But as a child, you can do it. It is possible. Don't let adults who failed to do what they should have done talk you out of your dreams. You know, you can make it, and I want you to believe that there is so much more that you can achieve. And you have a couple of examples of young people that have done phenomenal things. So as a child, keep pushing. The future is bright. Then for the youths, I think you are at the climax. You see, there is so much that can be achieved as youths. The challenge that we now have is that we have youths that keep thinking, you know, we are future leaders, and we are forgetting that the future is now. And as a consequence, we have youths that keep threatening success. Me, when I grow up, wait. Then those are guys who, sooner than later, they realize that they've actually grown. Like, then they start threatening again. Me, if I was young. Yeah, so you better take advantage of your time now. Stop threatening success. I don't know why now we have youths that are late maturity. You know, maize, there's early maturity and late maturity. And and it happens now that almost all the youths are now late maturity. They are not realizing that the time has arrived. But I'll just remind you to say we have young people, even in our Zambian setup, that have done phenomenal things. Venon Mwanga was an ambassador at 21, representing Zambia. People that have changed the world were young people. Isaac Newton and all these guys were young lads. So we need youths that to rise up. In fact, when Muammar Gaddafi, those guys, president at 27. If you looked at our Zambian setup, you realize that the president was 40. Kenneth Kaunda, the oldest was Simon Masakapepo at 42. The majority were less than 35. So it just says one thing: young people can make an impact, and you can do so much. And if you looked at all the companies that have revolutionized the world, you know, Facebook, you know, Microsoft, you know, Pizza Hut, Google, all these were founded by young people. So young people, time is at hand for you to own up and realize that you are in charge of your destiny. Then for the older folks, if your energy is gone, time has come. Well, it is never too late. You can still achieve so much, but learn to invest in the young people who actually have the energy, because by investing in them, it then gives you an opportunity to leave a legacy. And not just that, there is so much more that you can achieve through young people. You realize that there are older people who've invested in businesses owned by young people who've ended up minting so much more because they believed in the talents of young people. So those are the words that I would have for the 3 generations or for the 3 levels that you've actually classified.
All right, people, you've heard, children, there's a very bright future ahead of you. Youths, it's time to rise up. And the older generation, you need to invest in young people. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for hosting us, by the way. We know that for entrepreneurs, time is really money, and thank you for just really having this moment with us. Thank you so much.
Don't mention it. The pleasure is mine. Wishing you all, please keep doing what you're doing, and all the best in what you're doing. And may your channel grow and reach out many more young people and keep impacting many more young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That's all for today. My name is Florence Mlenga, and don't forget to like our page on Facebook, Unza TV Ridgeway Campus. Thank you.